Just joining us, we'll get started in one more minute or two.
Maybe in the meantime, for the ones that have joined, so it would be really nice to understand maybe in the chat, just like where you guys from, and what organization represents, just to get a little bit of an understanding.
Great. So please open up your chat and start typing in where you're located and what organization you're with. And we will, while you're doing that, let me just start to introduce. So Christopher Pomeranning is the founder of Learn Life in Barcelona, Spain. So he's with us from Spain today. Christopher's background is as a successful entrepreneur. He started a number of businesses, some which worked, some which didn't, which we will talk about. But why we've asked him to be here today and what we want to explore is this journey from being a business person and starting out maybe wanting to run a successful business and seeing a profit in that business, and then recognizing that that's not enough. That the next question is, what more can I do? What more can we do? How do we move from profit to purpose? How do we have impact? How do we have the right metrics that we aim for, and how can we really have impact? And so Learn Life is this big idea which we're excited to explore, which is, if I'm right, Christopher, I mean, one of the metrics is 100 million. Can we educate 100 million students in a new way over the next 30 years? And so thank you very much for being with us today. I know you've got some learners with you. So, let me invite you to set the scene and engage the folks with you. Are you ready?
All right, super. Thanks for the quick introduction, Kit. So yeah, I wanted to introduce you in a moment to some of our learners. But before that, a quick question to all of you guys. And you have this thumbs up mechanism in Zoom. So I just want to know a quick round of everybody. Who of you is really connected to their purpose? Who of you know their purpose? Can we just show a thumbs up from the people that know their purpose? And I will ask you obviously later on for what that purpose is, so no cheating possible here. All right, so perfect. I'm asking you that because on my journey 6 years ago, when we started this whole project around Learn Life and changing positively education around the world, there was one data point that, let's say, shocked me the most, and that was that 76% of all teenagers in school have no clear sense of purpose nor direction where they want to go. And so like everybody is trimmed towards, okay, what is my next best test exam results, and what are my grades, which kind of university should I go to? But the most important part of missing, who am I in this world? What do I do? What's my next step? That was kind of missing. And so we said, okay, this is something important as for us humans to understand very early on. So I want to introduce you to some of our learners and basically seeing what their purpose journey is. And I'll try to give you a quick ride through our Learn Hub here in Barcelona, which is the first of its kind. It might be a bit louder now. Okay, and so here we have Raj. Can you hear us well? Is it too loud?
Can't hear too well.
Okay, so let's go, and if you can come with me into the room, then that would be great. So we'll go into a room where it's more silent. The problem is we have to put on masks, but I think that's okay. Okay, come on. So, Raj, why don't you get us started? And so here you have a group of people from around the world, and they are super interested in, let's say, how learning happens, but especially, your interest. Have you found a certain way of purpose? How did you find it? So, but first of all, explain us, like, where are you from? Yeah, how old are you? Just give us a bit of an intro to yourself.
So I'm Raj, I'm 13. I'm turning 14 this year. I was born in Russia, Moscow, and my mom is Russian, and my dad is German with Indian family. So yeah, very mixed cultures, passion of learning.
Oh, tell me, just pretty interesting part, fun fact, like how many languages do you speak?
6.
Which are?
German, Spanish, Russian, English, Catalan, and Punjabi, which is an Indian language.
Is that a passion of yours, languages?
Not really. I mean, it just kind of came with having like a very multicultural family. So I mean, that's it.
Okay, super. So yeah, tell us a little bit where you are on your journey towards purpose. Like, what are your passions? What are your interests?
There's a lot of things I like mainly though sports and something in sports. Like my favorite thing is football or soccer.
Which you cannot figure out on your jersey right there. So.
Yeah, and those are like my favorite things. I think like I'm kind of like right now I just switched to the creators program, which is in between. So there's explorers, creators, and then change makers. And this is like the part where you kind of like start experimenting and trying things for like to find your passions. And it's like already where you start kind of closing down on different things you like. So for example, let's say you like coding, you start practicing that more and focusing more, but still exploring other things. And then I think by the time you get to change makers, it's already like focusing on your main passions and making that like your job or whatever. And right now, I mean, I've always wanted to become a football soccer player since a kid. And I mean, it's really hard, but like I'm still trying to do that. But of course, I still have like other plans in life. Like there's a lot of things I'm passionate about, like skateboarding, acting, things like that. And I mean, Learn Life really helped me find that. Because I mean, for example, like just the whole Ikigai activity is like really helpful, but I think it's mainly just being able to do what you want on a daily basis. In creators, there's literally like 2 hours of the day, I think, where it's project time and you independently work on a project of your choice about absolutely anything. And there's like a certain structure for it. You start by submitting your project proposal, and once that gets approved, you can start working on your project. You can do anything: presentation, website, video, posters, whatever. And I think that's how Learn Life has helped me find like my passions.
Can you quickly explain? You mentioned Ikigai as a concept. Can you explain like how is that composed? Like what are the parts of the Ikigai concept?
There's Ikigai's like visually, it's I think like 4 circles and 1 in the middle, so altogether 5 circles. And each circle is like a question. And one question is, for example, what are you good at? Another question is, what are your passions? I think another question is, what can you get paid for? And the last question is, what does the world need? And then once you answer those questions, you look at all the answers and try and put one together or a couple together, and that's like what you have in the middle. That's your Ikigai. That's what your passions, what you can like, what you're good at, all of that combined, and that's practically like the concept of Ikigai.
Super. All right. So maybe quick rounds of, I don't know, is there any specific question from the audience? Because I know Raj has a mother and brother waiting outdoors to go to the train station. So I just want to if there's any raise of hands or quick question in the chat. Please go ahead.
I just wanted to say he picked the right football team. FC Bayern München, it's perfect.
Super.
Just
Thank
quickly,
you.
Raj, sorry, it's kept, so the shift from what your school was like before to coming to Learn Life, like how long have you been at Learn Life, and was that an easy shift or a hard shift?
It wasn't hard or easy. It was like it was interesting in the sense that like it was a good thing to switch to the system, but it was like it came with its challenges, but also with its like advantages. So like for example, getting used to not having homework was great, but maybe getting used to having to by yourself without instructions come up with a whole project was hard. Not because the students here or me, I'm not creative enough, but because the other schools didn't prepare us for that. And I mean, before that, I lived in Moscow for 10 years. And I went to a British school, and then I went into a Russian school, which was horrible. And then I did homeschooling for a while. And then I moved here and I did a year in a school called Momo, which is a partner school, which is kind of like the primary of this school. And then I switched to Learn Life, and ever since, it's been great.
All right, man. Thank you very much. All right, here we go. So, Calvin, how about you for a moment? So, let us know where are you actually from?
I was born in Washington, D.C. And my parents are both from the States. So my dad is from Australia and my mom's from my dad's from Arizona and my mom's from Pennsylvania. Not as interesting as Raj, obviously, but you know, we can't all be that.
All right, but so what brought you to Barcelona and when did you actually come over here?
So I moved to Barcelona 5.5 years ago. It really, both my parents have jobs where they can work from anywhere, so it just came down to wanting to experience something new. And also my dad is kind of like a city freak, so it's all about the walkability and stuff like that of the city, and Barcelona is a great walkable city that has priority for pedestrians in most places. So that's one of the reasons we moved here, but yeah.
And what's you how long have you been now in Learn Life?
This is my 3rd year in Learn Life, so about 2 years. I'm starting my 3rd year.
Okay, so you have done creators.
I've done creators and now I'm in change makers.
Okay, so when did you move to Changemakers, and why did you decide to move from one group to the next group?
I moved to Changemakers I started this year and we've been going for 4 weeks or something like that now. And I moved to Changemakers really because I feel like first of all, I felt like it was the necessary step because I only have 2 more years of high school, or I'm in 11th grade or junior, primero bachillerato, whatever it is all across the world. And I just thought it was what I had to do. Like I wasn't going to stay in creators another year because, yeah. But I'll also, just from what I understand, Changemakers is where you kind of go professional with your passions. And since I'm kind of already taking the steps to do that, I thought it only really made sense to do that and get the full assistance that I needed.
Okay, so but very interesting, maybe I think for everybody. So was it Learn Life that decided for you to move? Was it the parents? Was it the learning? So who decided? Or was it you actually?
Well, I decided to move to change. Learners make that decision by themselves. So my sibling Ash, he moved from explorers to creators in January of last year. So you can move in the middle of the year and stuff like that. And so I just happened to move at the end of the year.
And what do you do actually? I mean, to move, is it an exam? Or what do you do?
You have lots of requirements, and those requirements typically are completing a bunch of things that have to do with the building blocks that compose your group. So in the creators, you have to finish 2 LNSs, so get level 3, or no, 1 LNS level 3.
What is LNS?
LNS is just a building block about life navigation skills.
So it's life navigation skills instead of geography
Right.
or history or whatever. Okay, just
So
gets it.
Finish 2 LNS, 1 LNS level 3, 2 studio level 3s, and studios are the rooms we have around the space.
So what is a studio level? I mean, just to understand.
A studio level is the things that you do to unlock the ability to use things inside the studio. So to transition, you need 1 LNS level 3, 2 studio level 3s, and among other things.
So which is your favorite studio, just to give again an idea where you're spending your time at?
Well, my favorite studio is multimedia, but I do most of my multimedia work or my video editing work on my home computer and also on my laptop. So yeah, but if I had to say studio that I was in the most, it'd be multimedia, but I spend lots of my time inside, just doing self-directed, sitting somewhere in the space.
Okay, but that means that if you have different levels of studio, that means you can go alone there, or do you need any learning guide or else to be with you?
I think I can go alone right now. I think so.
Exactly.
I'm 90% sure.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Super. So tell us a little bit about your passion or your purpose, because I think you made also this move because you found out that you have a quite clear direction in your life, right?
Yeah, so about 1.5 years ago, I got into video editing over quarantine. And now I guess I'd consider that my passion. I video edit for one YouTube channel right now, but I just did a video for a new possible client, and so I might be getting that. Anyways,
How old
yeah,
are you now?
I'm 16. I turn 17 in a couple months.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't really get into video editing to make money or anything like that. It really was just, quarantine boredom, and then it just turned into this love, and I feel like there's this kind of misunderstanding in society that like about video editing, and I think that it's a lot more of an art than people really see. So yeah, so I'm kind of getting into that and trying to get further into that now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Maybe some question, if there are, again, directly open the mics or raise your hands. Kip, I can't see, so maybe you can moderate if there's anything.
Any questions for Calvin? Everyone's shy.
Perfect. All right. So thank you so much for your moment of time. And then Storm, come with us.
Hello.
All right. So Storm, tell us where are you from? Which is such an interesting name.
Well, I am from Iceland, and both of my parents are from Iceland too.
How's the volcano situation going?
I think it's going pretty well. It had a very high point some time ago, but now it's relaxed a little bit. So yeah.
What brought you to Barcelona then?
Well, it was around 8 years ago. My parents decided to go to Spain because, Iceland has a very bad weather situation. It's very cold, so they just decided, that they wanted sun and they wanted heat. So they just moved to Spain.
Super. And now you are how old?
I'm 16.
16, and you are in the creators? Change makers? Are you already in the change makers as well? Okay. So maybe you can also explain like what is your journey towards your passion and purpose right now? Like where are you coming from? So maybe you can explain also, because you're already here for 2 years now.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe give a quick explanation of your journey.
Well, I came here to learn life 2 years ago because I was just doing I wasn't doing very well in traditional school system. My grades just couldn't, like, I just couldn't pull through it. So I came here to learn life, and that's when, like, it just, everything kind of started kind of getting puzzled together. I found my passions, and after that, it's just been great, you know, because I mean, in a traditional school system, I just felt kind of lost, and I really, my hopes for the future were very bad. And you know, when the teachers were always telling you that, you know, you wouldn't be anything, and it didn't feel well. So I came here to learn life, and as I said, I
Well,
discovered.
sorry,
life.
when they told you that, was that very, I'd say for your self-confidence, was that great or not so
No.
great?
It was horrible for the self-confidence. I mean, before I came to learn life, it was at like the 0 point basically in my self-confidence. So.
And then what happened? What, like, how did you then start to like discover yourself and discover your passions and your purpose?
Well, when I came here to learn life, I met a lot of people, and by the groups being not all the same age, I met people that were a little bit older than me, that had more experience in stuff. So that's when I discovered 3D modeling and coding, which really changed my life. And so yeah, and there was this older guy that taught me about 3D modeling. So
was it a learning guide or was it one of the learners?
it started with a learner, but then it went more to, because I wanted to learn more about it, that's when it went to like a learning guide, and they started guiding me through it.
And what, so, and now you are still on that journey?
Yeah.
And do you have a direction, or do you know what, I mean, is there something in the world that you connect, like 3D modeling and so on? I mean, have you been building things that are, let's say, meaningful for you and for other people?
Yeah, I've been 3D modeling for about 2 years now, and you know, with that, I've been able to create, for me, amazing stuff, because I can bring my ideas from the digital world to reality, which I find amazing. And now 2 months ago, I started coding, and yeah, that has really changed a lot, because you can mix also both of them together. And
what is one of the most meaningful 3D models that you have built?
Well, there was this competition that I did a couple of months ago, which was to help people with disabilities, and we would create and design, how do you say it, like
a tool?
Yeah, a tool basically to help them go over daily tasks that they had difficulties doing. And so I made I 3D printed a little clamp that would let a man open a water bottle without actually moving his fingers.
So so the design principle was there was actually a handicapped person that couldn't move the fingers, and so you designed for one of the tasks that he or she was, let's say, confronted with every day, a real application, right?
Yeah.
And so was that with Autodesk?
Yes, that was partner. That was like a partner with Autodesk and Print Lab, I think it was called.
Okay, and so you were working on with how many schools in the world on the challenge?
Wow, it was a lot of schools. There were,
I think 30, 40.
I think they were in the 20s, somewhere there.
Yeah.
20 schools, and we placed first place.
So yeah, so I think that's a beautiful story. Like how you connected already your own purpose with what's needed in the world, which is exactly what the Ikigai model actually suggests, where you can actually cross over basically things that are really needed in the community, and you bring your interest and strengths towards. So it's a beautiful example. Yeah. All right, just in light of time, is there any question towards Storm from the audience?
So Storm, I had one, just in terms of who's responsible for who's responsible for your learning, and how do you, are you responsible for it? Does somebody else at Learn Life tell you this is what you need to do today? Yeah. How's it, is it flipped now and you own the,
Yeah, I mean, most of the because you choose to learn, you choose to, if you want to accomplish something, it's a big part of your job to try to get to that point. Because that if yeah, as I said, if you want to get to a point, you have to work for it and you have to find the motivation to do it. So it has been a lot me, but then a lot at the same time, it has been a lot of the learning guides or the teachers that have pushed me and helped me get.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Storm.
All
Have
right.
a good evening and
too.
see you tomorrow, right? Perfect. All right. So, all right, I will use now a moment of time just to explain actually who am I and then bring you to an introduction to the Learn Life story. So I'm actually from Hamburg, Germany. So whoever is from Germany knows, beautiful city, but too much rain. So now I'm, since 23 years, I'm in Barcelona, which definitely doesn't have the rain problem. My journey started in the university while I was studying. I don't know if there's any Italian people in the crowds, but anyway, there were quite interesting race cars called Lancia Delta Integrale, which were winning championships in the off-road world in 94, 95. And I found a very cheap one of those. And I bought it in Germany and I brought it to London. And 3 months later, a dealership asked me to buy that car for 30% more. So I thought that is interesting. So I went the next weekend to Italy. I bought another Lancia Delta Integrale. I drove it from Italy to England and I sold it again. And I did that for 6 times during my first year of university studies. And so I basically paid my university studies with Lancia Delta Integrale, driving them from Italy to London, which was a quite fun ride. Anyway, so that story goes on because then in 98, I was in my first year in Barcelona, and 2 friends of mine asked me whether I want to build an internet company with them, changing the marketplace for cars from offline to online. Well, that sounded quite exciting because, 98, internet was just starting. So we basically built in 98, 99, the first marketplace for used cars in Europe, which today is by far the largest marketplace with more than 2.5 million cars on offer in 10 countries around Europe. And that was sold in 2003 to Deutsche Telekom. So that was my very early entrepreneurial journey as a student. And then when I thought I was much older, because in the age of 27, I first got my first beard, so I looked really experienced. I was able to then say, I will create a venture capital company out of Spain for the rest of Europe, from entrepreneurs to other entrepreneurs. And obviously, most of my mentors said, you're completely stupid, because you don't have any gray hair. People will just trust in people that have gray hair. And you don't have the experience and so on. Anyway, I found some crazy family and office investors that anyway invested with us. And so short story, 15 years later, we built a venture capital company across Europe that manages 74 million euros and invested in 26 companies around Europe. And that was basically most of my life between 2004 and 2015, or basically up till now, because we still are having some companies in our fund. But then something very important happened in my life, and that is my wife and I, we had our first children. So we have now 3 children, Luca, 10 years, Yona, 8, and little Mila, 2 years old. And then 2015, we were on a journey in Asia. And basically what happened then is we suddenly looked into our children's eyes and we thought something is is going wrong. They need to live in a world that is kind of going into a wrong direction, and basically education is the one thing that will bring them forward. So we started to look into education systems, and I will take you now into the journey of Learn Life. But I think one very important part, and the topic of today is from profit to purpose, is that in this 2015, I was raising my third venture fund. I was right in the middle of it. And I suddenly understood this is completely wrong, because I looked at our children and I said, what are we actually doing in venture capital? Or what are we doing in capital markets? I mean, we are looking for companies that are, trying to scale as fast as possible, use as much resources as possible to go that way, and really not look into the human side of things, nor at planet or anything else. It's just, again, returns, profits, and again returns and profits, and that is really not the way that we can build a world that is good for our kids. So I really started to tip basically 180 degrees from, let's say, pure capitalism towards something new in the future, whatever that is. So the interesting part is that happened at the same time that I looked into, okay, what is my next life? What's my next purpose? What is my next ikigai? And I figured out that the world needed a completely new education system. I was interested, obviously, in my children. I love my children. My strength is that I'm an entrepreneur and I have disruptive, innovative visions. And my recognition was that the more and more I spoke to other parents, to other thought leaders of education, everybody said the kind of strategy, the kind of viewpoint that you have on education, we haven't come across so far. So you might maybe have a go at this, and we would support you. And that is how my 4 areas of ikigai made me move from being an entrepreneur, internet, venture capitalist, to become a positive impact entrepreneur in the world of education. And now I'm going to share some slides. So you should be able to see now my screen. I hope somebody can say something, because I don't see
Yes.
you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
We can.
All right, good. All right, so this is the little gang which is responsible for all of this. And yeah, so basically in Asia on that trip, what we started to do is we looked into the most innovative schools around the world. And then actually we found out what I said before. Some of the most important statistics looking into education was that 76% of all high school seniors were not connected to their purpose, nor understood who they are. Another one was that 77% of all teachers feel that they are in an innovative, hostile environment. So they actually don't have any ground, any foundation to change anything in their education settings. And then, as you are very aware of, probably close to 1 billion people will be or changed or displaced by AI and automation by 2030. So those are some very critical, I think, colliding factors, knowing that our education system kind of stalled when digitalization happened about 30, 40 years ago. So basically education systems just stayed the same. And what I'm saying is, if everything that can be standardized and can be optimized by 2030, then our education systems are creating the biggest dead end for humanity. Because if we have today 1.5 billion children and other people in universities and so on going through a standardized education system, then the only thing that they will know afterwards coming out is that they have learned for a world that doesn't exist anymore. And I think that is one of the biggest humanitarian problems that we are creating ourselves right now, besides pandemics and climate crisis and everything else that we have in this world. So also another interesting part is that lifelong learning is key to employability. So many of us, 30, 40 years ago, they went into one career after going to school, university, and that was their one career. But today's generations and future generations, they have to reinvent themselves 10, 12, 15, 20 times So lifelong learning becomes the bottom line to actually always stay connected to what is needed in the world. And well, actually, Yuval Noah says that above all, you need to reinvent yourself again and again in the next 30 years, which, you know, I think pays in quite well onto this. So what we did then is we went with a small group of people, researchers around the world, and we looked into 100 most innovative schools. We created basically a best practice matrix, bottom line, for what exists in the world. So probably you know about High Tech High in San Diego for project-based learning, or you have, you know, in Reykjavik in Iceland, you have some of the best online schools and blended schools in the world. The Vita schools in Scandinavia, amazing for space-based learning. The Green School in Bali is amazing for green schooling, nature-based learning. Northern Beacon School in Sydney is one of the most amazing representations for collaborative learning, and so on and so on. So we discovered some of the most amazing learning innovations, learning approaches, and learning best practices around the world, and we gathered them, we aggregated them all into one huge matrix. One of the most interesting things is that you speak to normal teachers or educators around the world, and they can tell you maybe 3 or 4 learning methodologies that they use when they speak to their learners or what they apply in their normal content-based lessons. But what we found out is that there are more than 25 learning methodologies that already are evidence-based for the last 10, 20 years around the world. Just the world doesn't know about them because nobody ever aggregated everything that is possible. So today, imagine a learning guide or a teacher of the future would have a backpack that he can grab into that and say there are 25 learning methodologies, and by understanding any learner very deeply inside, you can structure actually any 4, 5, 8, 12 learning methodologies that fit best to that learner, so that that learner will be auto-motivated for life to learn. So then what happened is I started to speak to amazing TED Talk speakers, to people that write amazing books about the learning revolution and so on and so on. And I asked them, so besides writing these books and making these TED Talks, I mean, have you ever collaborated with any of the other peoples around the world to actually create a new learning paradigm? And the answer was always the same. No, we all do our one own thing, but we don't collaborate. So I then said, okay, why don't you all come to Barcelona and we actually start to design, think, and collaborate and co-create a completely new learning paradigm altogether. And the first year in 2017, I think about 30 or 40 of these innovators from around the world came to Barcelona, and we started to build a completely new paradigm. And so in summary, the base of the new paradigm are 100 of the most innovative schools, more than 600 research reports from 29 countries that show the evidence behind more innovative learning, and more than 750 thought leaders from 70 countries by now that are co-creating and crowdstorming the future of learning. So they are all gathered around us, and they support us with input from all kinds of countries around the world. And what happened is we understood the paradigm shift that has to happen. So we are right now in a world where standardized education is the status quo. I think about 8 or 10 years ago, especially the edtech world has identified that personalized learning is the next level, but that's just level 2 on a journey of 4 levels. So what we have then experienced is that together with learning guides, learners start to go on a co-created learning journey until they actually become personal empowered learners. So they can be self-directed, self-created, self-determined, self-responsible learners, which can take full autonomy on their own learning. And I think you just witnessed 3 of those learners, how they are in complete control and complete responsibility of their own learning. Okay, so if you want to implement personal learning, you basically have to create not only a paradigm, but you have to actually bring it to the world so that anybody in the world can use it. So what we then started is we open source 21 elements that help the transformation process for any learning institution. So that could be a school, that can be a university, that can be a professional learning center, a company that has professional development, anybody can use these learning innovation elements to change their learning community towards a future-ready new project. And so all of this is online and accessible to anyone in the world. So, but what we then understood is we have to create an ecosystem around this personal learning paradigm. And what does an ecosystem embody? It embodies the paradigm of personal learning, but it also embodies actually a stakeholders, which are the learners. It's the school leaders or university leaders or other educational leaders, and it embodies obviously teachers, which we call learning guides. And then it embodies physical hubs, which you know as schools or universities today. And we just say lifelong learning happens in a learn hub, because a school or university is just a boxed-in version of a certain age group that we have structured over the last 150 years. But if you have a place where you can go forever and learn, you actually have a learn hub. And then you obviously need some technology around it. So those are the elements of the new paradigm and the new ecosystem. And we are basically in the moment on a mission to empower 100 million learners across the globe in the next 9 years. We are turning 5 million teachers to become learning guides around the new learning paradigm. And we support 100,000 school leaders, university leaders, government education leaders to create new lifelong learning communities and new school projects in order to embrace the new paradigm. And just to give you a very quick run through how we are doing this. So we are establishing what we have here in Barcelona in different cities and countries around the world. We call them learn hubs. They can be small or big. So Barcelona is 1,200 square meters in size for a capacity of 200 learners. And they are lighthouses for personal learning. So you can actually experience about a new way of learning that is 30 years advanced to anything that is right now existing in the world. We do this in an urban setting. We have a nature setting, so which happens for younger kids, completely embraced in forest and nature, close to the beach. Learning happens everywhere around the physical spaces. And we are actually building right now in Germany, in Hamburg, in my hometown, and 11,000, or in square foot, it's 110 or 120,000 square foot building for 1,000 lifelong learners. So that is in the age of 0 to 100 years old, all cross generations living and learning together under one roof. So these are representations of what will what the whole world can embrace and implement in their own cities. And then I think one of the most beautiful last creations is, you see here a 60 square meter classroom that we converted into a fully creative studio setting. And we call these mini hubs hublings. And hublings can be created into any public or private school within 8 weeks and a budget of 35,000 euros. So we are now in a position to go to any school administration in the world and can propose to change any public or private school within 8 weeks towards a new paradigm, because these hublings, they're integrated into one of the classrooms. So you have 30 or 40 traditional classrooms. One of them looks like a Harry Potter room, which is a magical space where self-determined personal learning is possible. And every child or every adult can learn for 2 to 4 hours per month in this new setting and can understand that they can be in self-control of their learning. So basically it's a Trojan horse of how to tip an entire education community into the future of learning. And to final up, here you see what we're doing in Hamburg. So besides our large private lighthouse hub, which is the green dot in the middle, we are actually establishing together with the city of Hamburg. So it's a public paid project. We're establishing right now 12 hublings in public schools all across Hamburg, and with the goal to build 350 hub links in every public school in Hamburg in the next 3 to 4 years in order to empower the 250,000 learners and the 25,000 educators in the city. So we are changing an entire city from an old standardized learning or education system into a personal, empowered learn ecosystem or learn city. And that is our very clear strategy of how we can go into any region, any city, any country in the world and change the entire system into the future of learning. And I think that is it for my presentation. And I would love to give the word to you guys. Have any questions? I think it's the time to make these changes in the world. So what I do right now for education, I hope that all of you are doing in your organization to understand what is the main purpose of the organization and really not drive for profit anymore, but drive for the purpose. Because right now, I think what we can do in the next 10 years for our next generations, for ourselves, will determine how our world will look like. So it's right now time to act. And anyway, that would be my giveaway to you guys. So whatever your questions might be or whatever the discussion is, let's open the floor. I'm very happy to take it in any direction that you want.
Christopher, I have a question.
Yes, Alejandro. ¿Qué tal?
Muy bien, muy bien. Education, especially younger ages, is heavily regulated in every country in the world. What have you found in terms of, ministers of education, superintendents of education, not being able? They have sometimes their hands tied to implement radical innovations. What have been your findings?
Okay, I give you two experiences. So I'm based out of Barcelona. 2018, we decided to build the hub that you just saw a little bit in the background. And before I created the hub, I went to the Minister of Education of Catalonia, and I basically explained openly the project. I said, we will build the first worldwide Learn Hub of a new paradigm that has nothing to do with your education system. Everything we do is completely outside of your system. We will not comply with any regulation or rule that you have written in your statutes. So we have three options now. First, you put stones in our way. Second option, you can tolerate us. Or third, we can collaborate and build this together. What was their answer? Number 3, right? So they started directly from day one to collaborate with us. Why? Because we were doing things they always wanted to do, but they couldn't because they are bound to whatever they do. But they knew that everybody, all of their stakeholders, everybody, the kids, the parents, the teachers, the school leaders, whoever, everybody is getting more and more frustrated. So they need answers. So we are able to create lighthouses with answers and solutions inside. And now the next answer to you is the superintendent. So the same thing happened in Hamburg 2 years ago. We went to the Minister of Education with the whole team. We explained what we do in Hamburg. We will set up a private lighthouse in the middle of Hamburg. After the hour, we walked out of the meeting. They all said, okay, we would like to collaborate and so on. The superintendent of the city of Hamburg ran behind us to the elevator, wrote his mobile number on his business card and said, call me, I want to have a private lunch. Besides the politicians, I will make happen that this is happening in Hamburg. I will make this personally happening. And that's what's happening right now. He is the guy, the superintendent of Hamburg is the responsible guy that the first public project in the world is happening right now. So these are my two answers. All right. Who else? Bring on your questions. Come on. We have 10 minutes. Or 15.
What did you decide to leave behind? What gets left on the cutting room floor? Sort of
my greed for my inherent 40 years of being part of a capitalist society that was an addiction to run after money and positions and I don't know what. And that I, after 6 years ago, looking into my children, understanding that, well, an addiction, we all know, needs to be substituted by another addiction. And then I said, what is the most positive addiction that I can look for? The most positive addiction that I can look for is love or appreciation or recognition by my wider community. And today I walk into this Learn Hub and I see happy children and happy families and happy learning guides, and many times parents coming up to me with tears in their eyes and say, what you guys are doing is you have changed our life from a miserable, depressive family life to a flourishing, wonderful experience. And that is so much more important to run after the next unicorn in this life, which happens anyway every 5 years or whatever, or ever in our capitalist world. And so, you know, I live so, I am so connected and so connected to my purpose and so happy that I've never, you know, lived before. So I don't know if that explains what I've left behind.
Well, you've got me curious also what gets left behind, you know, just in educational content for the learners, for the students. Like, is that purposeful or is that?
So you're speaking about educational content?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We have left behind all educational content. Why? Do you know the shelf life of content in this moment of time?
Low.
1.6 years. So I know I go a little bit against my host here, yes, at MIT, but I think, you know, that's my purpose, right? My purpose is to think about what is the next ES or MIT, or what is their, you know, next vision life. But if you think of our, you know, traditional degrees, they are 4 years long, right? 3 to maybe 5 years. So content overturns 2 to 2.5 times in that life. So that already shows why our education systems in all levels, be it in you know, primary, secondary education, higher ed, you know, master, whatever, is completely outdated, because it doesn't work. It works learning experience that are co-created in the moment with the learner and the learning guide. I mean, that's what ESA is doing right now, to be honest. These expeditions, I mean, so you have keynote speeches and you have these expeditions. What we're doing right now is a learning experience. It's an interactive learning experience. It's not content delivered to you. It is something that we do together interactively. That is the future. So content, to be honest, is a commodity, and curriculum. I mean, who decides today what the curriculum should be for a future that nobody knows anyway, how it looks like now? So anyway, some of my thoughts.
Christopher, if I may ask, and a very inspirational story, your journey is great. So thank you for sharing that. If I were to look at students and learners around the world, if I were to broadly categorize them, although it would not be fair to categorize learners, they are the mainstream that go to regular schools, etc. They're also the learning challenged kids, like children with learning disabilities, autism, you name it. How to address some of those situations for these children, you know, when it comes to learning differences?
Beautiful question, thank you. So the first design principle when we started 4 years ago with the first Learn Hub was that we said, so if we create a new paradigm that again sits in the middle of every learner that understands the system, because today we make 1.5 billion kids understand a system, not a system understanding a child or a learner. We said we need to have the extremes. So the first 20 learners that we invited was the two sides of the extreme. So the ones that you would consider or label as learning difficult, you know, you name it, you know, with all kinds of learning problems, whatever. I mean, you know, the typical labels that we give today, I don't want to mention them because for me, these are just labels and we don't really care about them. And on the other side, we had the so-called super talents that were completely bored by the system and so on. And then we said, okay, so these are the first cohort of learners, because if the paradigm works for both sides, then the golden middle will anyway work. So that's the starting point of the project in any case. So today I can walk you around and I can you can look at some of the learners and you say, what a brilliant talent I have in front of me. And I say, yeah, this person 3 years ago was coming to us as an Asperger, was completely frustrated, had the worst grades ever in every school, was considered non-social, and suddenly it's a person that is thriving on the passions, is completely loved by everybody, and is perfectly able to speak to everybody in a very social way, right? So you take all that crap that we have created as labels away by just putting everything upside down. Anyway, that's my short answer to a quite long topic.
Beautiful, thank you.
Christopher, you and I in an earlier conversation talked about failure, and how to either become comfortable with failure or learn from failure, and how failure is one side of the coin so that you can think big. I mean, this is a huge idea. And so.
All right, I see where you're going. So yeah, I actually, I jumped that in my introduction because I hope that we turn to this at some point of time. So after my huge success of the car marketplace, I love sailing, by the way. And so I built also an online platform for boats in 2000. And in 2002, that company drowned virtually. So I really like it. It went completely bust. So I had a crazy experience of failing as an entrepreneur. But until that stage, everybody around me, being at school, being at university, told me I only can succeed. I only have to have good grades. I can only get from one level to the next level. I have to make exams. I have to, pass the diploma and so on. That was my life. So it took me 1.5 years to overcome that failure because I have never learned anything else until and one of the first investors of the new venture capital company, he wasn't an investor by that time. I had a discussion with him. I explained them again my story, my entrepreneurial story, and that person said, "All right, now explain me your biggest failure." And that was the first time I expressed my entrepreneurial failure. And he said, "Okay, now I'm going to invest with you because I can see that you can learn from failure and that you became a much better and much more impactful person." And so suddenly, with the age of 26, I understood that everything I learned during 26 years in my student career was not relevant because the real world was embracing actually failure, and the only thing that really brings you to the next level was failure. And today, I would say everything around the new learning paradigm, if you go out here, you see in every room and every place, there are design thinking walls. All our learners know how to design think because they will fail every couple of weeks on the process. And then they know how to reflect on that process. They take the failure, embrace it, and explain it to the learning guys, their peers and their parents, and they show how they will do it better. So failing is the biggest core aspect of what happens actually in our paradigm.
Great. Christopher, it's the top of the hour. I know you've been up for many hours now, 12 hours. So we'll stop here, but thank you so much for sharing the story of Learn Life, your story, introducing us to Raj, Calvin, and Storm. Please say thank you to them for us. And we want to see this continue. We want to see you hit that 100 million and blow past that 100 million number. And we will all be proud of having been there and heard the story in the beginning. So thank you.
But more important, just to, again, speaking about impact, positive impact, every one of you can be part of it because you can all go to your own schools or your own, universities in any capacity as a learner, as a parent, as a teacher, as a professor, as a dean, as a whatever. You can go into your co-working spaces. We are implementing now hub links at airports, just to give you an idea. So you will go to museums in the future that will have hub links. So an entire city will become an interconnected learning environment, digital and physically. So each one of you can go and can say, I know now how you can actually place the future of learning into any learning community. And within the next 2-3 years, this entire community will completely flourish into a new way. So each one of you, you can be the starting point in your communities to make the change, the transformation happening. Okay. So anyway, with these words, I mean, you know, we can connect on LinkedIn. You know, if there's anything else, you know, Learn Life, you have everything available. It's all online. It's all accessible. So thank you for the invitation and love to all of you.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Thank you. That was great.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you very much. All right, so thank you, everyone. We've got another expedition in an hour's time, so you have a break. But we're going to come back and actually take you all to Nigeria. So stay tuned, and we'll see you soon.